for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So welcome back, everyone. Welcome back once again. As you can see, I'm doing these videos in bulk, so quite a while without a video, right? And then there's a video out, more than one. So I want to further discuss the topic of inception work for volunteer souls and the work of the light and dark integration, because I'm not sure many people understand the level of depth that this work actually goes into, right? So I've shared with you my Star Beings Visitations experience and video where I discuss some of the things that are coming to the forefront with our mission upgrades, and for a lot of volunteer souls, you know, what are sort of the necessities that are prerequisites before we can move on to the higher levels of octave of our being. Read the description, the mini writing that I shared on Instagram today. So it's quite a profound triggering, and many people said, yeah, they want to know more about this, that this is so needed right now. So I took that as a call. As you know, I no longer do things per need, you know, in terms of how much I need to do this work, but when the need comes as a necessity of the group overlay of energy, that there's a calling, right, in the collective field of those beings who are feeling called to do this work. If there's not a lot of beings who are called to this work, then Spirit does not guide those of us who are spirit guides to actually deepen this topic, subject or topic, right? So what I mean by this is that I've been working with volunteer souls for quite a while, and there's always something underneath as the foundation of the experience that's similar to all, and this is what I want to talk about today, and sort of like a deeper underwork world of the voyaging and sort of like vision quest that we must perform as we uncover layers and layers of inception and what this is and how this was incepted into the whole human experience, and how this is not at all a part of our natural growth as humans, because there's a lot of programs we believe are ours and they're not. They come with the incepted brain, right? Inception in the brain, which is the inception of the mind that does not belong to the natural evolution of the human mind. So I've talked about this in one of the galactic updates on my Patreon channel called the Ascension. So I won't go into that so much specifically. If you want to go deeper, you can always work within my group. But today I want to focus on sort of like what are sort of the things that are so deeply called out now for this level of group consciousness. What are volunteer souls truly being called to? Because there's such a need now for these beings to awaken, to step onto their path. You know, and many say, yes, I'm embracing all aspects of me, shadow and light, but this is deeper than just embracing aspects of us. That's just the first step. It's easy to embrace aspects of the self if you're a volunteer soul. That's the easy part. Most people that I meet that way, they're very beautiful light beings. They're just such amazing people full of devotion and dedication, and they're all about the light. So that's not so much what the journeying is about here. I've shared with you recently that after this Star Beings visitation, I was deepened into my understanding, into my dream world, and how I get many of these simulation dreams now, and I always have, but they're being deepened, and this is where I get to see and solve some of the tasks that I need to perform as a being in order to grow and evolve. So as a part of our integration work, you know, there will be this triggering that no one can escape, you know, and now a lot of us have received a new Stargate initiation, which means there was a directive that literally asked us if we still want to be here. Quite a few people in my group sort of had a similar experience, right? And I've had it myself, because after the dream visitation, what actually occurred is I had a shared dream with my mother. It was very similar, and it was all about this signature. A signature needed to be signed. So when we went to meditation, it was about the next level of advancement. And someone in my group also shared that they also don't feel sort of like belonging to the earth or attached to the earth's work or even bound to it in a certain way. And I used to feel very bound to earth's work. And then there was a stage or phase where that no longer felt so much, right? I could leave at any moment, so it felt. But I chose to stay. And so this signature, right, this next level of the update of the agreement caught a lot of us who progressed to the level that we could leave if we wanted to. Because we did lay out the foundation. I know I did my seeding work and my sealing for people who come afterwards. And a lot of us are doing profound generational work, the work that will be here, not necessarily something that's known or it's in the books, but setting the templates for the new generations of humanity to come. So our work is deeply expanded and it crosses the boundaries of what we feel to be known and familiar. But there's also a stage in our life where we get to decide, well, there's many levels for volunteer souls where we can decide if we choose, to stay or go. There's always a choice. Everything in this realm is about mastering choice. And I've talked about this before, that if you don't make that choice, someone will obviously make it for you. So we have to make our choices really masterful and conscious, right? Anyway, the member in my group shared that they felt this calling still of the souls who are entrapped in this reincarnational cycle that's still ongoing, and it's no progress in that, because in this reincarnational cycle, that's this belief that growth is slow and dense, and you just have to suffer in order to grow. So when I recently had a session with someone, they shared something with me and they said, well, if I don't do this work or I don't make it in this lifetime, there's always the next one and I can come back. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that this is a timeless project, right? But in truth, if you think sorry guys, sort of tongue-tied today, but if you think in terms of you can always get it done later, you're never fully going to integrate or be devoted in the moment, and you're never going to do all that it takes for this mission devotion. So I've always been the kind of person that I wanted to be all in. There were no halfways for me. No easy does it. No, I'm all in or I'm not here. And I always said to my team, if there's nothing for me here to do, I want to leave. Give me something to do. I need work. It's how I am. It's just my nature. If I'm not stimulated properly, if I'm not always traveling through advancement, I get bored. That's just me. It's my nature. Okay. So I understand not everyone is like that. But our true mastery begins to unravel, and it starts to be established in this realm, in this body, when you think of yourself in terms of timelessness, but not in a way, well, you have all the time in the world and you don't have to do everything now because you can always get it done later. No, it's the kind of timeless nature that all time is in this moment now. All the potentials, and energy, as never gets lost. It's all here already in this moment. So when you're tapping into the vast reservoir of all of this potential that's unlimited, you always want to be in the kind of state that you will do your best job and you will do all that it takes for this mission. If you're a volunteer soul and you're truly awake, that's how you're going to begin to feel eventually. And you will want to live for this. You will want to breathe for this mission. It will be all inclusive, and all in your life will be a part of it, not excluded from the mission. Everything you do will be, it will be receiving that breath of life that you're pulling into that you're creating, fueling your life's work through that. And you will be not working for the establishment, but instead for the inner establishment. So your personal, true, masterful domain. Thank you, Birdie. He's affirming me. There's a bird chirping there. He's saying, yeah, that's true. So nature always is affirmative because nature knows, nature understands these things. So in terms of this masterful integration, right, we always have to think in terms, I need to do this work now, right? Let's say because I work with individuals privately as well to help them focus on finding these points of inception that they have so they can move on, they could progress in their lives. I sort of come in their life, or they come into my life, they find me when it's time for a synthesis in their life. And usually, as you know, that's the most challenging part, right? Because you're gathering experiences. Eventually, you're going to have to complete something that's like a whole package. And that's a lot sometimes. But you can do all for the light and you can do all you want. But the higher consciousness level will not come in randomly, automatically, all on its own if you won't layer that, if you won't accompany that with masterful integration. And that's not all just about meeting points of view or aspects of you, but since you are a volunteer soul, which a lot of you watching this probably are, because it's a sort of magnetic experience, right? You are working within a higher template. So you you're within this collective field that is all full of these inception points, right? So how to locate them? Usually in your lifetime, there will be a triggering experience, which if it will be challenging, if it's challenging for you, it means that it's something that you just can't move or pass. You can move beyond, you can pass through, right? And usually I had a case like that when a person just couldn't move forward. The being was so stuck in that idea that they need to feel how they once felt, they need to be in that light, and they felt sad afterwards, and they felt a lot of repression, and they always wanted to do something to move back to that state, and yet they couldn't for a reason, because they couldn't integrate without moving into these points of inception and integrating their shadow aspects, which they have to be embraced also through our genetic lineage, through our ancestral lineage. That's how we meet these aspects. It's not just aspects of the self, but all aspects that have been sort of successive generational aspects that have moved us through the experience. It's not just embracing our soul lineage like a lot of the starseeds want to do, right? It's all super fine and dandy when you have all these beautiful aspects, right? These more advanced galactic aspects. And we're still in this stage when so many of us are denying the earthly aspects. And it's almost like we don't want to acknowledge that Earth also has a galactic presence. Right? So we are making the human realm moving into the galactic presence that has been so deeply, dormant, lying dormant and suppressed and seen as less than. But I always talk about cosmic union as the integration of the human self with the star self. I've made plenty of videos about this, so I won't repeat that. But you won't move into higher octaves of your higher nature, of your higher being, and you want that light, and to be in that light here on Earth, that's not how things work. Each time there is a successive layering, right? These templates need to meet, and that's kind of like these counterparts always coming together. A lot of people think that that's only in terms of you coming together with another person who's supposedly your twin flame, your perfect match. No, there is a deeper nature happening here, as you well know. Those of you who are actually doing the work, each level brought you to the next level of advancement only if you surpass the integration of light and dark. So there's a dance of these playing polarities. And when I say dark, I don't mean that you embrace something that's I don't know, something that you would say, oh, I don't have these aspects, because you always relate darkness to something evil. Again, that's a program. So the portrayal of darkness as evil has brought away souls from the sort of shamanic perspective and path, which has lost a lot in translation. A lot was lost, a lot was distorted through the New Age and the false light agenda. In the previous video, I shared one of the experiences from my group members as well, how they were in this hoaxed reality where I think in one of the ships, they actually had beings in trance state with repeating a certain mantra so that they could feel or believe this was a spiritual experience, although they did work on their bodies and it was nothing at all like such, right? It was a total invasion. So there's a lot of hypnotic, trance-induced states here on this planet that people aren't even aware of. And there's a whole maze around the whole portal of illumined union, which in one of the sessions we did on Patreon was discussed in detail. What does it mean that this portal becomes now open, beyond this maze? So a part of this maze is also you and your work. So the more volunteer souls that do this work, and the prerequisite and the requirements, and that they meet them in each successive layering, right? When you're doing the integration work, you're assisting the whole. And there's less of a maze, there's less of a fog, there's less of a veil covering all that was intentionally placed in the grid as these points of inception. So I'm going to give you one example. In one of my recent sessions, this came out when a person shared about their family dynamics, because usually these first points of inception for volunteer souls would be in their families. So usually there's a repetitive pattern, and sometimes it's funny, even though it's very repetitive, the person won't always see it because you're looking at it from so up close, and that's how we are. If we're looking at the pattern from too much up close, you can't see the pattern, right? So you need to further out, or that's why people distance themselves from these experiences or their families or situations they were once involved in. But there's a bigger distancing that's needed here. Not just withdraw from the situation, but see it like distancing, moving vertically, not just distancing by moving horizontally, right? So this is a mix and match, of course. We need both. So when I work with people, I sometimes help them to locate these points of inception, but still I cannot do the work for them because this is advanced mastery. And when we meet those points of inception, we have to see them, we have to confront them, look them right in the eye, and acknowledge that this is not us, that this was a false construct, and that we are not in fear of it, that it's only repeating because it's always in this induced state. And that's what a lot of people don't get. It's not just meeting aspects of you. It's meeting the aspects of all that was false, all that was distorted, all that was intentionally implanted in the grid, into the human experience itself, so that the template, which the earth of course holds in her core, the core of the earth has the foundation for the template that's written in. It's sort of like its own link with the galactic library. It's its own galactic library, linking it with all other galactic libraries. But people want to do the work by moving upwards. And in one of my recent dreams, I actually had this information come through, like cosmic information. I discussed this on Patreon as well, through the womb of the core portal, and then having the connection with the Stargate work through that portal work. So if you want to know more about that, again, I advise you to join the more advanced work with you on Patreon. But going back to that reference point, right, through that example that I had come through in a session, there was a very distinct familiar pattern in the family of the individual. And we kind of had to move through it, and I channeled a lot of information, and still, right, what remains is the individual work. When we meet that aspect of the energy, because it's repeating itself, and it's almost like people act mechanically with it. It's almost like in robotic states, because they believe, oh, that's just a natural part of our human evolution, and it's natural for us to act greedy, you know, all these things, lies, you know. And let's just say one of the example was that in one of the example here was that the feminine was the source of like stealing from the masculine, right? The masculine was the provider, right? And they were like this safe figure. So the feminine used manipulation and scheming and all that in the whole matrix system to get to their resources, right? To own that and to just claim it for themselves. So it's fascinating, right? We wouldn't think that, and we would say, oh, it's not natural, right? For the women to be like that. No, it's not. But it's not just because we judge that and we say, oh, that's not feminine, you know, divine consciousness, but because they're constructs that are built in, and a lot of them go back to certain timelines, like the Atlantean timeline, or even further back. So sometimes we source out the information where that inception point came into being. If you want to do more here in this work and you want to truly get activated, there's no better resource about this than the books I've read you from, some of the paragraphs from last year. There's a trilogy of books from Barbara Hand-Clow. She's a famous, super advanced author. She's amazing. Like, all of her work is super amazing. But these books specifically relate to the integration work, the shadow, the light. If you truly want to be a master of polarity, it's just master of the light doesn't even exist. It's false construct. No master was ever born of that path. You know, every master had to see all the moves of the dark. They had to embrace the energy as it exists, as it presents itself this way through every distortion, right? I'm going to share a dream I had with you, and then a visual that was presented, the way the light and the dark actually play together. So yeah, it's very important. And these books are called the Mind Chronicle Trilogy. And they're The Signet of Atlantis, The Heart of Christos, and what's the third one? The Eye of Centaur. Yeah, I read you all three, the paragraphs from all three. So yeah, talking about this, if you want to know more about this, you can either join my Patreon page where we do this work. We also had a shamanic session. But it's all about moving deep into the essence and confronting these energies and knowing that you're always going to get something. This is a path that never ends. So when you meet certain aspects on a certain level, then the new level is unlocked. You move there, and you know, that's when you get the higher conscious aspect moving into you, because otherwise you can't be a vibrational match because you haven't integrated the energy at that level. It's as simple as that. Yeah, it is simple for those of us who have the understanding of how this works. So I've also gave you this example from the TV show called The OA, and how at the end she needed to integrate her more higher advanced consciousness because she was aware of her nature, right? That she's the OA and she can travel interdimensionally and she can jump and she goes into these near-death experiences and receives guidance from there and brings that into the physical world. But when she embraced this more human aspect of her is what we call the integration. So both had their purpose, both served the purpose. And this is what we're doing. We're doing a galactic synthesis this way. So each successive wave of this incoming more, what we call more galactic energy, right? This higher overlay of energy. If we want to do that and embrace that into our human form, there needs to be an unlocking. So these two need to be like two signets that match. And the earthly has to receive the galactic and vice versa. Otherwise, it's just a mind experience. It's not really happening in terms of true organic ascension integration. You can learn more about that in several of my courses. I have also the Cosmic Union course, which talks a lot about that. But right now, I want to share the dream I had today because it was exactly about this. In the dream, it was all about this dance between light and shadow and this interplay of polarities. And I'll show you the cards that I got towards the end. When I've written the whole experience down, I pulled 3 cards, and it's funny. It's amazing how it all matches. So I'll read you from my mini diary so you can see what I'm talking about, that I don't leave aspects out. So this was a really weird dream, and lately I have a lot of these dreams that I have to decipher in a more symbolic way. And some of them are, like I said, these simulation dreams where you have to get the message of the lesson, where you move through the archetype. Sometimes it will be the dream when I jump different realities, and every time it's different. So I'm writing it down more and more to see what additional messages come through. So in this dream, I was suddenly summoned by the court, by someone. I actually got an appeal, right? And so I got this appeal or something, and I was looking right into it. It was very vivid. I was holding it in my hands. And I really didn't know what it was for because, as you know, I didn't do anything. But there was this vague memory that there is something that I forgot to attend. So there it was. I was like, oh, I should have gone to that like months back or something, right? And either way, there was a choice to be made. I could either rip it apart and ignore it, but then they would be after me eventually, right? It's nothing I did, but it was the system and the matrix, and one does not make a change by avoiding it. I knew I must go because otherwise that would remain there in the ethers as unresolved, right? And I went, and when asked, when I was there at the court, I played sweet and innocent as I am and said that I've just completely forgotten this because I just was so busy with exams time. I had exams or something, supposedly. How funny. And then the man who was a teacher, the one who accused me or wanted me to be there for some reason, and he wanted me, he made this statement all of a sudden, and he got nicer too. So he sort of was different than what it appealed to be, right? From the beginning of when I was summoned up. I played then his game, not avoiding it. Then I remember him saying that he would just like to teach together with me and do workshops or something. That was truly bizarre because he felt a little fanatic to me. He had this idea of me and then me and him together. It was really weird. So although I knew this isn't mine, right, it's for me, but I just listened. And then at the end, he also wanted to dance with me. And that was a really, really weird part. Suddenly, I had a nice dress on me, right? What just happened in a dream? This was weird, and this crazy man who would do anything to get me, to summon me, wanted my presence. So there it was revealed that he actually just wanted my presence. It was not all about the accusation or anything. And the first impression, even though I felt I will not know how to dance, was just follow. There was this subtle voice. Oh, look at Ducky floating by the river. Hey, Ducky, how you doing down there? So cute. So yeah, follow. You see, flow. Because that's flow. Because you don't solve the control, right? He wanted to control me with more control. It's not how this goes, right? It isn't the proper feedback and response. It's again about embracing the darkness with love, and only in that truly discover what it wants at the very core, what it truly longs for in the heart. So the control freak, that fanatic who appeared to me in the dream as one of the famous New Age teachers, that's just visual, wanted my presence, but he would cheat his way of getting into it, or getting to it, right? So to accuse and summon me. But to embrace the dark is making love to it, as it was represented by the dance. right? The dance is like, it wasn't stage, it wasn't choreography, it's just go with the flow, like the ducky, right? So this went in perfect flow and harmony. That's the representation of the dance. Finding out what it wants, and only in that way predicting its next move. That was what was the feeling, right? So then no longer feeling like a victim or that something is being done to you, but that you're actually dancing, learning together in that embrace of the beloved, whatever it is, whoever it is, whatever they want from you. In true illumined light, there is no hiding, no running away. All masks must fall off, and it is the true childlike innocence and purity with truth wholly embraced that opens the gates of magic and transparency, and therefore the alchemical union. So this is where the OA example from the show comes in, when she also has this perpetrator who is her torturer, and he puts her in a cell, as you know, does experiments with her, and he, although as vicious as he is, he sees her as his partner in a way. So that's kind of freaky. So in the show, in the second part of the season, they actually say, but he's your shadow. So they also sort of, you know, they start to dance. Oh yeah, they danced in the TV show as well. That's really interesting. In that embracing of the inner light that's embodied, which means it can be often represented with the word charisma, right? So in her example, she needed to embrace the alter self that was more human. In that case, the inner flame ignites the way forward, and all is well. So in the dream, the dance ended harmoniously with no harm being done to anyone. And then I woke up, of course. So then there's the other dream I had about the core magic of the pulsar. As you know, the light beings represented themselves to me as pulsars. And then I had this dream. This was a guided cosmic information, and it's been about the core, the energy of the pulsar as the core remnant, and how it's not about moving somewhere up there, because that's truly where the pitfalls of especially the light worker communities lie nowadays. True magic occurs at the higher advanced levels of understanding. Working with the Earth's core and reverberating or moving the energy from there is really important. It's where the access to the stargates is. It's where all the pulses are interconnected as one. And we can mimic the mission of a pulsar, a highly charged collapsed neutron star, as you know. You can Wikipedia it. It's where the true mission work takes place. The magic of the Merlin and the dragon as well is represented by this. So in the session on Patreon, we had the cave, which you enter and you lit with the presence of awareness. The core has the template, the seal, and dragons who assist this process are the guardians of the template. As you know, when you do this journeying or voyaging work with meeting these parts of Inception, you can summon up the dragon energy as well. So they're the guardians of the template. They were always shown as guarding gold in the cave, as you know. And that was falsely represented as greed, right? Like they're greedy. They're all about lusting after that gold. But that is not true. That is symbolic for guarding the flame of the mother. They're the ancient guardians of it, and they will assist and work through all who are selflessly committing themselves to this mission work. In togetherness and divine equality, the preservation and orchestration of the mother's flame. The best and highest that anyone can do on their own is aligning with the sacred work. The more waking up and doing the goddess liberation work, because with each inception point, you liberate more of the goddess. You can pray to the goddess, right? You can co-create with the goddess in your heart. But in the physical sense, when you actually move energy, you have to do this work. Otherwise, you're just going to remain a light worker, not true energy mover, and eventually a cosmic master. So the more that's waking up and doing this work, the higher our reverberations of truth will be throughout the Earth's grid, connecting to the core and drawing in the magnetic nature of higher consciousness from inside out. Yes, pulling the light in and integrating the light codes of the galactic descent, joining the human galactic nature with other galactic natures and essences held in all other forms of embodiments. Every galactic human in the making is to go through this process, and so it is as perfectly orchestrated and guided. So for those of you who want to do even more advanced work, You can join my Patreon group, Light Community. Get the literature from Barbara Hand-Clow, The Mind Chronicles, 3 books. I gave you the titles. Do your own work. No one will do it ever for you, as you know. Even in the personal work with me, we do a lot. And sometimes even just being conscious of it, if you have very strong energy presence and strong will and determination to move through it, the energy will start to work with you. If you are more of the mind that, it's just happening on its own, it won't. You were perhaps given a gift of awareness and you were ready for that awareness, but then you have to get your butt to the next level. It's just how it is. Yeah. That's where the steps are taking people. And it's important. We need as many as we need actually for this higher advanced work and for the Earth's pulse, which is at the core work. But we can work at the advanced level if you don't get to, the other levels first. It's how it is, right? You don't get the advanced assignments if you haven't done the study work, right? That's needed for it. So I'm going to show you the cards that I got when I pulled this. Look at this. The first card, when I pulled for the dream, what it meant, look at this, the chess game. How amazing is this, right? And I thought, yeah, the person first wanted to have me in checkmate position. But I would totally be checkmate if I didn't really make that choice. Once you start playing the game, you will see it's not that inevitable, because the fear will always make us think, well, I'm already screwed, right? What else can I do? Or then the fear will say, just run, right? Just don't acknowledge, just rip it apart. Don't even acknowledge it. It's not there, it doesn't exist. No, we learn by applying. It's like learning the moves of the dark. So when you're dancing right here in the chessboard game, you're actually predicting the movements. Eventually, as you know, the dark is actually very predictable once you get the hang of it. Once you start to understand the dark and how it thinks, because it's not fully expanded, right, through the mother's flame, it has a limited scope of operational ability. And once you reach that high mastery level, the dark will sort of get very predictable. And at that point, you won't need what a lot of people think, that we need this constant shielding. And, sometimes it scares the people of the shadow realms when they meet someone totally unprotected, unguarded, unshielded. It's like, whoa, look at this being, they're just shining. And it's scary, for them. So eventually tuning in and feeling when you go through the dance, it's like in my dream, I didn't know what the next move will be. Will I know how to dance the dance? The first guidance is just follow. You will know with each step. But if we want to run in the first place, we will never get to that part, right? We're never going to get to that part. We will perhaps say, I'm going to do just the light work now. But what is that anyway, right? It's non-wholeness, it's non-completion, and we're always going to remain incomplete and separated if we don't do this work. So you see, black and white, shadow and light, that dance, the dance of the communion. Cosmic convergence is meeting all these aspects. First, light and shadow integration, then the cosmic, the earth, both one. It's a beautiful dance. The figure here has fallen. But look at which figure has fallen, the dark one. Yay for the light, team light. When we say dark integration with the light, doesn't mean, does that mean I have to now become a dark being? Still, people don't understand this. Get to the basics first and then come back to this, okay? It's not what it's meant here. And this was the next message, illumination. You see, we are working with illumination here. The flame of illumination has to move through all these levels and layers. That's what we're doing. That's what the true masters are doing. This is the Ace of Wands. Look at all the beautiful things that can be triggered from the touching upon reality as it truly is. Like all these beautiful worlds and realms of being are triggered here. When you get to choose to play the game, and even if you do get screwed, right, you end up being the one that's fallen. It's just one move. There's always the next move. Even with the game of chess, when they stop the game, they say, well, you want to have another game? You want to play another one? That's how we have to think, right? But every game vested all in, not maybe I can do it in the next life. Don't get lazy, right? So I also have chosen to work with this deck. Suddenly it called me. Someone once sent me this as a gift, the Andara Oracle cards. I'll tell you at the end why this one came up. I got 2 cards. Look at these lovelies. Again, light, shadow. The names are Andarian Tangerine and Andarian Storm. It's exactly what we're talking about here. I'm going to read you the cards. So this one, the light one, says, I hold the solar energy of the great central sun. My light purifies and transmutes all that you are willing to release. I bring the solar light into your cellular DNA to activate your latent DNA strands and upgrade your consciousness via the pituitary and pineal glands. Simply place me on your third eye for a few minutes for the upgrades and activations to complete. I bring you great vitality, empowerment, focus, clarity, and power. You are one with everything. During times of feeling disconnected, please hold me and I will help you to remember the oneness that pervades this cosmos. That's the light aspect. Let's read the shadow one. I will assist you in working with your shadow aspects. Allow your shadow to become illuminated and brought into wholeness. I will help you to read energy and see between the veils. I'm a sorcerer's stone, right? The Merlin magic. Great magic is available to you when you work with me. We don't even know what magic means if we don't do that work. I will open you to channel messages and insights from your highest self. I can help you to see the gifts even amongst the darkest of circumstances. So we have to see, we have to open the gateways by seeing. It's a visionary quest, and sometimes we won't see. Even people who are focused very much on the light, they won't always see, because you need to learn to dance to these moves. So yes, beautiful integration taking place here. It's as if this dance was so natural within us, and these points of inception have been taking people away from what we call the shadow by portraying it as evil. No, it's shadow is like these unacknowledged aspects. It's the blind spots in our reality. So through these blind spots, and often they are the case because we have been in the inception energy for so long, and we've sort of gotten accustomed to it and thinking that's just normal, that's a part of our evolution. No. We have to discern between what's a natural human evolution and natural human traits of growth and the growth pathways and points of inception. So, yeah, that's the important message coming through here today. I hope you were able to stay with me throughout this whole process. I really, truly hope that more beings will find their path into this work, because I'm not sure how many people are actually aware of how important this is. Not just for this planet, but for the conglomeration of worlds or the association of worlds. For this cosmic union path and journey, it's quite intense. So every one of you who makes a choice to be interested in this, but not only interested, to get your whole self in it, to show appreciation for this work, for those of us who are already doing it by supporting us in our work, but then also following the pathways that have been set by us, moving through these trajectories and the stepping stones by creating your own. And when you're creating your own ripples, you're always going to be able to assist others. It's a natural process. We each do it in our own way. And I always sort of come into people's life when they're right at that threshold, when there's a difficulty, they can't move through it. And a lot of times people think they have to go at things this way, but when the synthesis happen, right, life doesn't have to be that hard. People think, well, I have to get it this hard way because it's a part of my training. If you're here to inspire and ignite others, do you think you have to, for example, live in poverty or misery conditions, things like that? No, because how will you assist others if you live in conditions that you can't move through them? So when you perform this synthesis, all of a sudden, this usually unlocks powerful gateways of energy, which through inception was trapped, it was locked. And when you do this journeying and voyaging work, you will sort of release that energy that was pent up, because you're the one doing it. You are the volunteer soul. You get to do this work. You are in command of this. You're so badass. You're so in charge of this, right? And when you do this, it pops open, and energy of life force that was entrapped before, because of this point of inception, the energy couldn't move. And you, as a part of your lineage, or people maybe had many more lifetimes, so they were feeling that that's just a part of their story. It's not their story even. It's a part of the inception story. They just lived a part of it because of their higher awareness, and they are given this assignment, and it's an opportunity for growth and moving through it. So once you liberate the energy, once freed, it will be able to pulsate again in the state of infinite consciousness, in a spiraling motion, and it will come to you. It will come back. So if there was a feeling like something was deprived, you were deprived of something, or something was taken from you, it was just kept locked in this energy. When you liberate it, when we are working together for the liberation of the goddess, the energy will start moving again. It will come back to you. It will bring you the gifts. It will release the energy of something that maybe was rightfully yours, but it couldn't reach you, it couldn't come to you. But we have to find the point in the timelines when this was sort of like birthed, you know, the genesis of this first took place. And when you meet it, you meet its origin. That's when you meet its match. And like, aha, you know, you're like, aha. And once it's transparent because you've seen through it, it no longer has anything that can root it into this being, because you're the one who says, no, I liberate the energy. So there's many invocations you can use. Power words, sound. Sound is so super awesome because it bypasses the whole mental sphere. Even in our conversations, as you know, words can get lost in translation. When we use sound, it's the pure frequency that emanates and comes true. So it's super amazing. Speaking of sound and essence and vibration, I want to give you one last thing. The reason why I've chosen to work with this deck, because it called me today, is because someone from my group shared this crystal fair with me, this event in my country actually. I contemplated on it, and once again I was shown this vision of how now the whole crystal realm has been misunderstood by humanity, because it has just become another tool and resource for greed and materialism. Now we're making huge profit out of special gemstones that someone just claims to own, right? Or you own a mine, and we have to pay thousands and thousands to get a certain gem, right? Well, people with money or not, doesn't matter. But it's no one to claim. It's no one to say, I give you this price. It's mothers. We're reaping the wombs of the mother. The crystals belong there. You know, they're locking certain frequencies in those crystal caves. And so as you know, I work with the crystals that I found naturally here in one of our crystal caves, and they just naturally fall. I don't go into the cave, right? I can't because it's locked. You know, they have these special visitations, but it's those stones that fall through the scree and down and sort of end up in the forest, and you have to dig them up because they naturally themselves come out. They've chosen to come out of the cave. But it's not being done this way, and it's all, you know, it's using a lot of, what do you call it, labor, like child labor. Again, slavery, as you know, we have slave race mentality here, and it literally exists on this planet, as you well know. A lot of people don't acknowledge it, but there's a slave race, and they're sort of enticed into this matrix, and that's all they know about themselves. Right? They're just minions of this lesser, denser, right? And it's just how things are being or have been perpetuated for so long. So if you are, especially within the light communities, you are the ones who have the biggest power to change this. So as you know now, crystals have turned into bling bling. When you go to Instagram, everyone's selling these beautiful necklaces and rings, and it's all so glittery and shining, and that's more of that dragon energy. It's a human kind of trait, right, that we ascribe to that. And it's actually of the descent of the Anunnaki, because they had that greed. They loved gold and meat and all of that, and lusted and for sex and things like that. And so we're still living out those inception points. So now it saddens me because it's represented in these light communities, and there's very few people who actually consciously work with crystals. I preferably work with stones that come to me. I found this beautiful fairy stone. Well, the fairies have actually gifted it to me once I did this beautiful ceremony in my mountain valley. And I already want to go home, and there's this huge stone that has like white crystal topping, like a layer of the crystalline something, right? Beautiful carpet on the top of it. It was just so beautiful. And I felt that it's a gift for me. And first I didn't want to take it. And I felt like, take it, it's for you. I'm like, okay, thanks. And I put it in the middle of the kitchen. So it just emanates that energy, and it's beautiful. And it means more to me because it was a gift from nature to me. It came to me. I didn't buy it. I didn't, you know. And a lot of people might be guided now at this time to move to the essence work, because you activating your crystal codes, your crystalline template, you work with crystals at the essence level. So I gave this idea to the member that shared this with me, that what if you went to such a fair or an event or a place where there was a lot of crystals, and you used your higher tools of awareness, your higher light technology, and started sending these crystals, your light codes, your knowledge, everything, just to move with that, and gratitude, and just think that when you're walking through that room or that place, you're infusing with greater awareness, with that light, that illumined light. Because even when we return the crystals, where do we return them, right? We throw them in rivers and put them on the earth. That's not where they came from. They had their own specific place for a reason. So a lot of what we're doing is we're taking the animals out of the wild, putting them in cages. We're taking the crystals out of the wombs. Crystal caves are literally wombs, physical representation of the womb, right? The dragon, they are mystical animals, mystical creatures. They exist in different vibration, but they are truly the guardians. And when you have that nobility, that noble respect for life and wanting to selflessly serve, they will work with you. And they love to be summoned up for sacred violet fire work, for any work of purification, working with the chemtrails, always summon up the dragon energy. A lot of the people in my group suddenly started working with the dragons very intensely. So yeah, they're being called. They're calling themselves back. They're weaving themselves back into our true awareness, our activated awareness. So consider working with crystals not from greed and needing to own them, but you know, this is a beautiful representation, because here it's a card and yet it's an essence of a crystal in it. So you're working with the essence. You're bathing in that liquid light. So thank you for watching, my sweet beloved ones. I hope that was helpful, but not just helpful. I hope it was insightful to get you to the next level, because that's what I do. I help to bring people to the next level. So we're always moving, as you know. With each new wave, we are sort of revolutionary, making revolutionary changes with where we used to be, where we are now. So anyway, as always, with love, wisdom, and power, I guess I'll see you after quite a while now, because there's other work now to be done, but always with so much love. And you know where to find me, either on Patreon or personal work with me, or any kind of courses I have available, and ebooks, because I have a whole beautiful ebook that answers all this directly, and it's called Cosmic Training for Volunteer Souls. Don't miss out on that. It specifically layers out the map for our processes we have to go through, and just how it is. And I know this in my life completely matches all that was shared by Spirit. So thank you for watching, tuning out. I'll see you on the other side. Bye. So I'm going to sing you a song, just a short one. And if you want your own song, you know where to find me and my personal services. So let's see what comes through in this beautiful day, when the sun actually peeked through the clouds after a very strong wave of precipitation and strong, dark, dusky clouds. And then magic happened. This song will be about magic, I believe. The song of magic from the starry realms reaching the heavenly realms lived and experienced here on Earth, this beautiful planet, and its wonderful galactic library that is so firmly activated already. And sometimes it's just a glimpse away, a thought away, or a song away. So let's see. I'm inviting all the fairies, all the beautiful fae beings as well, the elementals, the song of the river, to sing through me, through us as one.
for illumined life to be but